Hello, everyone. Behind the mic, Gary Laubach, Mike Joseph, as we finally have a home football game, the only one in September, as we're on the road for most of the early part of the season. But, boy, we cannot look ahead without looking back. What a ball game against Monmouth on Saturday. A classic. I mean, as good a football game for a spectator as you possibly would want. Mike was a spectator, so tell me all about it, all the good parts. And obviously, today we found out Elijah Stewart is the National Player of the Week as far as FCS is concerned. What a ball game he had, set records.
Yeah, and the offense was somewhat unstoppable. And it was so much fun to watch. They got the Jamar involved, and they got him involved in a lot of different ways. Obviously, running the football, he did very well. The offensive line was impressive, opening up holes. They got him the ball in the perimeter through the pass game. I thought that was impressive. And then obviously they got Stewart involved very early. And when you get Elijah involved that early, which they didn't do against Buffalo, he was electric. They had to try to roll coverage, but then Monmouth took a lot of chances playing him man, one-on-one, bump and run, which he would come off the sideline, and I'd look at him, I'd point at him, he'd like, they can't cover me. And he was just unbelievable. So, and then you have the Caracia compliment, and you have the Pershing compliment, and the Dallas Holmes compliment, and you add Jamar in out of the backfield, and you said Troy Bruce. So their offense was terrific. They had a couple of injuries up front, so they were dealing with that. But this offense was phenomenal. They were unstoppable. And then they believe. And this is something my wife said. She said, man, it just looks like a different Lafayette team. I said, they believe. And they believe offensively that they can score against anybody, and they had. The defense is a little different story. Got some things to shore up there.
No question about it. As you look at the numbers, because they're important, 15 catches for Elijah. That's a school record. He had in the ball game 244 yards. That's a school record. He had the game-winning score, a 42-yard touchdown pass. And, of course, Chris Caracia, as Mike mentioned, 6 catches, 66 yards. But you can't avoid talking about Dean DeNoble. He was spectacular in the ball game.
He's spreading the football around. You look at Caracia through 2 games, 14 catches. You look at Elijah, only had 2 last week, 15 this week. Both of those guys are on a pace to break the all-time catches in a season mark, which is 77. So both of these kids are getting involved. They're happy for each other. They celebrate together. It's fun to watch. And, again, this offense, when they can get Jamar going, it opens up everything else.
Yeah, Dean had 31 completions. That's a record for him. His high, a career high, 394 yards throwing the football. That, too, for him is a career high. And you've got to mention the other side. Robert Stevens comes up with the onside kick. Gabe Du Bois with the big interception. Sekou with an interception in the ball game. The defense needs a little work, though. I was really impressed with Derek Robinson, the quarterback.
Yeah, I thought he played well. You can see, transfer from Maine, got a lot of talent. They had galore talent at the wide receiver. I mean, he really did. And their running backs, they used 4 or 5 of them. Sonny Ento, obviously, chip on his shoulder against Lafayette, playing a hometown team. He played really well. I question whether or not he should have went down at the 1-yard line right there, and they had a timeout to talk about that. Very strange. They kind of had the game in their pocket if they'd have worked the clock better. But defensively, we got to get home. We got to get to the quarterback. And, we're having trouble right now. Last year we had 37 sacks. This year we have 0. We've got to find a way to get to the quarterback, not only with 5 and 6, but with 4. How do we get those guys up front to get to the quarterback, to at least put pressure, maybe cause some interceptions? Sekou White's interception was a touchdown if his helmet doesn't come off. But, again, you see Du Bois step up at the end, make a great pick in the slot. He was playing nickel corner. Did a great job. So defensively, they have some things to shore up. Against Marist, a good week to get healthy.
Well, let's talk about Marist. The Red Foxes come in. They are 0-1. They only played the 1 ball game. That was this past Saturday. They lost to Georgetown 31-10. They have a brand-new head coach, Mike Willis, in his first season. He is all Princeton. Played at Princeton, 9 years as an assistant at Princeton. We know what the Princeton offense is like, and it is tough to defend against. So I assume we're going to see something that looks a lot like Princeton football.
Yeah, I would think he takes a lot from Bob Serace. And when we play Princeton, it's always hurry up. It's 80 plays in a game. It's getting to the line of scrimmage, trying to run as many plays as possible. So we'll see if that's an issue. Lafayette defensively, Mike St. Germain's going to have to make sure he's got the right personnel on the field. He's got the right substitutions on the field. So I guarantee you're going to see some of that Princeton offense. You're going to see them use the quarterback in running situations. That's always been a staple for Princeton. They've always had a good quarterback and maybe a package for a quarterback that maybe not start the game, but he's got a package of wildcat type of stuff. They've always done that. And then they always have big receivers. They make good plays. They got a good running back in Carter James.
Yeah, let's take a look at some of the names. Mike mentioned Carter James. He has 12 carries running the football, 47 yards in that ball game against Georgetown. Tristan Shannon also comes in. He had over 1,000 all-purpose yards last year. Didn't see all that much of him in this past week's game. Quarterback is Enzo Arjona. He's a sophomore. They play a lot of young kids, as is normally the case when a new coach comes in. 17 for 30, 147 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns, 57%. He looks like he's going to be a decent quarterback.
Yeah, he is. He's got the talent. He's got the. He just doesn't have the experience. So that's what we're going to have to find out from him, and that's why it's so important for Lafayette to put pressure on him with 4, 5, and 6. And I think you're going to see Lafayette early come after him, see if he's up to the task of not turning the ball over, because for Lafayette, one of the keys to the game for them is to get the ball, turn the ball over, create those turnovers, fumbles, interceptions, those type of things, create short fields. And in contrast to that, make Marist go the distance. Make them have 7, 8, 10, 12 play drives. John had mentioned it against Buffalo. Many short drives lost the game for them defensively, so they're going to have Marist work the ball down the field. Can they do that? Can they do it consistently with a young quarterback? And then turnovers early for Lafayette should put the game away.
Yeah, it was interesting. We saw very little offense out of Lafayette against Buffalo. We saw very good, for the most part, defense against Buffalo. This past week, just the opposite. The offense was on fire. The defense, not so much. Defensively, this team gave up 37 points in their opener, 401 total yards, 225 in the air, 180 on the ground. Nick Jackson's their most experienced guy. They do have an experienced unit on the defensive side of the football. And Tristan Shannon is a problem as far as special teams are concerned. So he can return the football.
Yeah, and that's always the issue, special teams. We're going to talk about special teams this week and Inside the Huddle. Okay. How well we've done. You know, they were a problem in the past, but I think we've kind of shored things up. It's been better. We've gotten some return yardage. Tristan Shannon is a guy you got to keep your eye on. I love that kid. I have him highlighted here. He's a player that you cannot allow in space. He can make plays. He can return punts, kickoffs, do all that stuff. And then offensively, he's a threat. So can they get him the ball? That's got to be a priority, just like Lafayette did with Elijah Stewart. But special teams this week have to be perfect. We've got to make the chip shot field goals. Can't continue to miss those. We need points every time we're in the red zone.
Did you get a sense after this ball game, just the way it all finally ended with the ebb and the flow and what happened in the last minute and just ridiculous football, that we now maybe are really on our way to a really successful season?
Yeah, this would have been a devastating loss for Lafayette. And again, it's out of league. And you saw John Troxel go for 2. And I get a text from my wife, don't go for 2, she says. And I said, you know what? It's the right choice. And it was the right choice for Trox. Go for 2 right there, end the game. And they don't get it, but they get the onside kick. The kids believe. It's a different team. It's a different culture. And we've seen that since Trox arrived. And you and I have said it in the booth, but this team believes that they are in every game for 60 minutes. And Coach Callahan for Monmouth said it. You got to play all 60 minutes, and you got to do it against this Lafayette squad.
It's funny, too. I'm texting John Leone while the game's going on. I text him, get a score, and go for 2. Yeah. So, obviously, your wife and I are different, Coach. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So let's take a look at the league this past week. Lehigh won, Georgetown won, Bucknell won. Holy Cross loses, Colgate loses, Fordham loses their ball game. Any surprises this week in the Patriot League?
Well, the only surprise is if you look at the Patriot League standings, you've got Colgate, you've got Holy Cross, and you've got Fordham at the bottom. Now, that's early, and it is very early. But again, another game Holy Cross probably should have won. They were winning that game. They allowed New Hampshire to go down the field and score, although New Hampshire turned it over twice in the red zone. They should have been up by more, but they had a chance to win that game. I watched the Colgate-Villanova game. They hung. It was 14-3 at halftime, and Villanova's a good team, but they stopped that quarterback at Villanova in the first half. They got good play. So Colgate and Holy Cross and Fordham at the bottom, Georgetown at the top. Again, we'll see about them, but Lafayette right there, and Lehigh gets a big win.
And Villanova currently ranked number 5 in the FCS, so that tells you a little bit about how good they are. Lafayette maintains the number 19 spot in the FCS, so they are ranked in the top 20. That's good news. We will have our first broadcast. It's coming up on Saturday at 12:30. For us, that's it for Inside the Mic. For Mike, I'm Gary. Thanks for watching.